Hi there and welcome to Stamping in the Barnyard. My name is Bethany Barnard and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up, and I have been excited to bring you 12 weeks of whimsical projects for Christmas. And these projects that come out weekly, usually on a Saturday afternoon, will take us right up through the middle of December. And I've got some cute projects coming up, but I've worked on a lot of cards initially because I know it's important to get these cards made and sent out. And so this week I have a hexagonal base card, and this is a 5x7 card, and it will fit in a 5x7 envelope, which is a bit bigger than our usual half sheet card, which would be this size, that would fit in a medium Stampin' Up! Envelope. But I have found that this One Horse Open Sleigh DSP, which is so beautiful, really does not need to be cut down. You'll see all of these scenes on here. I'm not going to show you a lot because over the weeks I've used this paper on at least a couple other cards. They're so beautiful. I even think this would work for an autumn card. And I love this paper and I find it very hard, and I've said this in some of the earlier videos, I find it hard to cut down too much of this paper because the scenes are so beautiful. So this piece of DSP was cut down to 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. So it's only 1 1/4 inches off the top and the bottom. So I really love this card. I think it just displays really well, and I'm excited to share it with you. I've actually had a number of people asking me if I would make a video for this card, and so that's what we've got today. So I am using the Horse and Sleigh bundle, which comes with coordinating dies that have more than what you see here. It's got some little features for the sleigh, and it has some snowbanks and a different tree than you see here that it will cut out, as well as these. Beautiful set. I love it. The more I use it, the more I love it. This suite also comes with these adhesive back snowflakes, which we'll be using, and of course this paper, as I said. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I do want to let you know that in the description underneath, you will find all of the measurements if you want to get your paper products prepared and then follow along in the video. That would be great. That's why I've put them there. But I will also point out what those measurements are as we put the card together. So we're going to begin with this 2 by 10 1/4. These are all in inches. Strip of paper, and it is scored at 1 5/8, 3 1/4, 4 7/8, 6 1/2, 8 1/8, and 9 3/4. So you do have to be able to find those 1/8 inch measurements on your, whether it's I love the Simply Scoring board, and we do have measurements down into the 1/8. Also on the trimmer you can find that, and so it's really basically just half of 1/4. And then you want to, and I didn't bring my bone folder. Oh, here it is. Okay, that's good. I don't want to start the video over. And I'm going to go ahead and score it on, I've already scored it, sorry, in advance, but I'm going to just make sure we get a nice fold, crisp fold on these. I've been telling some of the people who've asked that I would do this video, and somebody asked me again today, and I thought, well, I better get that done because it was a whole different person actually. So you should end up with 3 3, and then a little 1/2 inch, which we're going to use as a tab to close this. And the best way to do this, honestly, is just laying it flat, because you know that you're going to want it to lay flat so it will sit in the envelope. So that's what we're doing here. And you want that flap to be on the inside. And so you can see here that we have 6 panels, 3 on each side. Then we are going to decorate them with, this is again I told you I didn't like to cut up these scenes, which is true, and this could be a whole big puzzle piece, but we're going to use the red side as the base. So I do cut it up. I didn't even show you that. On the back of all of this paper are some really pretty, more, there's some greens and blues, and look at these beautiful reds and trees. That's very versatile, and it doesn't have to be used at Christmas time either. So that's really helpful. But I'm just gonna put all these panels of DSP on this card base. And I know that there's some other cards out there that sort of take you through how to do this, but I'm not sure I saw any others that made the 5x7 card. And I'm just gonna repeat, I really couldn't bring myself to cut up the DSP more than that. Now, it may look like there's a bigger border on the top and bottom of these, but when this folds out this way, it becomes more apparent in between. So the measurements that I'm giving you for these pieces are accurate, and they are 1 3/4 by 1 1/2. So 1 3/4 tall and 1 1/2 wide. Get this done. I'm excited about the next few projects I have to share with you. The next 2 projects I'm going to share with you are not cards, actually. And if you've been following me at all in here, you know I've used this one horse open sleigh. What's it called? It's called Horse and Sleigh Bundle. And I've used that stamp set a few times. I just think it's beautiful. I live here in Florida, and these snowy scenes still are what I want at Christmas. And with all the ladies I work with, they still like snowmen. They still like all of they're just like me. They really aren't bothered by the fact that we don't really get the snow at Christmas time. And they enjoy it as much as I do. So some people who live in other climates might think that we aren't interested in the snowy scenes, but we are. Now see how that folds out really nice. And by the way, I did use the thick white for this, but it also folds flat. Okay, so the next piece that you're gonna need is a 1 1/2 by 8 inch strip, and it's scored at 2, 4, and 6. So we'll do that. I love making these special cards because it does mean that a lot of my friends and family are going to get some pretty special cards. I have a son in Alaska and a son in Chicago spending their first Christmas in those wintry weather places. So these cards may hit home even more for them, having been raised in the South. So you're going to so I folded these all in the same direction. So you get this sort of little house thing, and you're just going to put glue at one end, and then it fits. Now I like to see, now here's where I put my seam, if you like, and I like to trap that. So I'm going to put this right over that piece, and it goes all the way down to the base of this, and it should just come up over the top right here. I hope that makes sense. So it goes all the way down here, and then it just comes up over the top there. And then you're going to put adhesive on the other side of that panel, and you're going to do the same thing. Just put it down with the panel that's right or directly across from the one that you just adhered, which in my case was the piece that had the seam. That way you can't really see it. You've kind of covered it up. So there you have that. So you can see how quickly this is coming together and how easy it really is. Now the next one, this is a lot of scoring, but it's not difficult. And as I said, it's all written in the description. But you're going to have 2 pieces that are 1 1/4 by 9 1/2. And they're scored basically starts out with a 1/2 inch, and then it's 3/4 of an inch for a while, and then you have a bigger piece. And well, you'll see it, and those measurements are going to be in the description. So this is probably the easiest one to mess up on, but it's not hard. Okay, so you're going to start, I like to start with the bigger square that's kind of in the middle. It's not really a square, rectangle, that's sort of, it's not exactly the middle, but then you're going to fold, in both cases, you're going to fold away from it, and then you're going to do a fan fold. So rather than like this, you're going to do a mountain and then that fan fold. Now I already folded this one, and that's why it's coming together so easily. But it's just back and forth, and then you end with another bigger square. And so this gives you that 1/2 inch that you start with, and that's basically your tab, because you are now gonna glue this, and you're basically making a spring here. See? Right? But now we're going to do another one as well, and it's the exact same measurements. And I haven't folded this one yet, so you can see me from start to finish. So I'm finding that bigger rectangle there, and I'm folding it away from it, and then I'm doing a fan fold. There we go. And this does not have to be exact. You don't exactly see it. When you see how it gets used, you'll see why it's not essential that it's exact. So once again, you have this 1/2 inch here, and we're going to just put glue on it, and we're going to close this. I really hope you've seen some of my other projects in my series of whimsical projects for Christmas. I like to make them a little bit different than what you've hopefully seen elsewhere. And I hope that you would give me a like if you like the project. I am not an expert on making videos, or I'm still sort of new at this, and I could really appreciate the encouragement that would give me. And you can see I didn't even measure these the same. Something's wrong here. This one's a lot wider. One of those measurements are right. I'll make sure they're right in the description. As long as, and it's going to be okay, this one you can see is a little bit skinnier. As long as the bigger one actually fits in between these, we're going to be okay. And it does. So we're going to be okay. And I'll make sure that the right measurement goes in there. But you can see that's the spring. That's all we've done is made a spring so that this will open up. And so we want to put some glue on that big rectangle. And again, we're going to take and put that across from, so like we've covered up that seam, but we're really still putting it where that seam is, if that makes sense. So you want it to go in between the two folds here. Sometimes it's easier if you squish it down first and then put it in. So we're trying to do that. You want to make sure that this folds flat. Now it does get thicker, and I don't know if I've mentioned it already, but you probably will have to have a non-machinable stamp, which is a little bit extra, unless you're putting in with packages or something else, to get this mailed, because it won't go through the machines. It'll be too thick. So this is the side I've glued. You can actually pull this out to put the glue on it, and then you can just put it back in, and it will almost find its own place there. And these are just really fun cards. And let's see, here we go. And then just to make sure you've really got it adhered well, close it up. And this is such a big part of what we're doing. So we have now our base done, and the rest becomes so much quicker and easier. And we're going to start with, here is my base color. I'm using the Lost Lagoon. You might have a different base color depending on which bit of DSP you're using. And it's cut at 5 by 5. And on one side of it, I'm going to adhere this white piece at 2 3/4 by 4 3/4, and that is just so that you can write a little note on the back of the card. So we're going to go ahead and adhere that. This is that new Lost Lagoon. I really think it's such a pretty color. When I heard it was coming back, my first reaction was, I don't remember that I loved that color when it was an in color. But boy, now that it's part of our core colors, I'm like, oh, I'm really glad they made that decision to bring that back, because I am loving the color. So here we go. So you just want to make sure that in 3, you have like the same border around 3 of the edges. Obviously, it's going to be more here, but that's where this mechanism piece is going to come up on it. Now I got a little bit of glue there, and I'll take my eraser to it. Oh, my fingers are getting it up, but I'll clean that up with my gummy eraser, which is at the other end of the table, so I'm not going to get up to get that. But trust me, I'll get that cleaned up. So now we're going to go ahead and put this beautiful DSP on here. And so since this was cut at 5 by 5, I've cut this down to 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. And so I'm going to adhere that. And look, some more of that pretty red paper on the other side. You know, I find it easier to use this glue when it's not full, but you do have to shake it down sometimes to get the glue down to the point where you need it. I only tend to glue the perimeter, because if my perimeter, this glue is so strong, and if I have the perimeter down, I don't really have to worry about the middle of the card. Okay, so now we're just going to put adhesive on this rectangle here, and that is going to be enough to hold this card. The only thing we want to make sure is that we haven't gone too far over this way or this way. So you just want to have the same overhang on either side to make sure it will fit into your envelope. So the other great thing about this green glue, liquid glue, is that it does give you a little bit of time to move paper around, but just a little bit of time, because after that, then it will quickly adhere and you're done. And then it takes all sorts of mechanics to, because I have done it with a heat tool, but it doesn't come off very easily. So let's pull this up just a little bit. You may have seen that just got caught a little bit on there, but you want to make sure it kind of hangs like that. Beautiful, right? We're almost there. The next thing I want to do is, and I did already color it, here's the horse and sleigh. I use the blends. You could use your watercolor pencils or whatever medium markers you prefer. And then we're gonna just adhere it right up here on the scene. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use dimensionals. This base is gonna end up being so thick, I'm not that worried about how thick it might get further up. I have my dimensionals right here. And so we'll put one here. I just love this whole horse. When I was a little girl, I did actually live up in New England when I was a very young girl, and we actually had this magical moment where someone came out right after a snow and they actually did have a sleigh. I probably sound really old now, right? But it's not like we saw them very much, but it was a horse and sleigh, and they had taken it out and come by the garage where we lived, and the garage was sort of behind our house, and at the time it was sort of on a little street road. But I've been back up there, and you know, that road doesn't exist anymore. It is I should have laid that flat to do that, or at least so you could see it. It doesn't exist anymore. It's all overgrown now. With the garage is still there. Actually, maybe that was even torn down, but it's just like overgrown nature. It's not built up. And then, you know, a more unusual thing that we've seen. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is, you can see here I used a label from, I can't remember what the name of that die set is, but I since then have bought this new Nested Essentials dies. I'll let you have a look at them. I really like them, and it's got these beautiful shaped dies, and I thought this is gonna look so nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp in my Lost Lagoon color. Wishing you a season of cheer. And I'm gonna put it right in this. I think it's just gonna look really nice on the front. And so I only need to put some glue in the center of this. And again, make sure it's sort of centered up and down. See, you can, if you wiggle it around, it actually then adheres a little quicker too. But it does not look nice. Oh, I'm loving it. I am loving it. And the only thing we have left now is to put some snowflakes on. So let's open it up and take out, I do have some already open somewhere. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. So I am going to, rather than open a new bit, I'm going to take up these. Now I do tend to prefer, you know, I think about doing these. I'm going to brave it. I'm going to use some of these copper colored, that bounced around, snowflakes, because they do show up better on this paper than the white. And I love that they have like 3 different, you know how there are no snowflakes that are the same, no 2 snowflakes are the same. So they have 3 different, except I can't find this one. Have I used that on something else? So they have this shape and this shape. This shape, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just 2 different shapes. Look on here again. I thought there were 3 different shapes. There is. There is. I am going to have to open this up because there's still another shape so that your snowflakes don't all look the same. So we've got this big sheet here. So I have to figure out where I want to put this nice big one, right? I maybe put those up too high. I think I'm gonna move this one up here. That's the beauty of a video, is you can change it right when you're, where do I want to put this? Put it there, I guess. I'm always interested in sort of odd numbers, so in this case 3, and I also like to do sort of a triangular shape of those snowflakes. Let's see, I feel like the biggest one should be toward the top. So there we have it. I'm going to move one down. Do you guys think I'm being too fussy about all this? My daughter thinks I get too particular, but that's who I am. What can I say, right? And then usually if I'm happier with it being somewhere else, then I'm glad I made the change. Where do I want this? Yeah, I'll just put it right there. Maybe it's not a big change to you, but there we have it. 2 beautiful Christmas cards, and they really didn't take long. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll give me a like, and I hope you'll check out my projects for next week and the weeks past if you haven't already done it. Thanks for watching.